The words appeared in the air between us so quietly, so tentatively, that for a second I was not sure I had read them correctly. I was sitting alone at a corner table in a small cafe on a Saturday morning, my coffee going cold beside me. My daughter's drawing spread across the table because she had gone to the bathroom, and I was holding her place with my presence and her artwork, when I looked up and saw a woman standing near my table with her hands raised in the most carefully composed expression of someone who is bracing for rejection while still finding the courage to ask the question anyway. She signed slowly and clearly, as if she was not sure how much I would understand. "I am sorry to bother you. I am alone. The cafe is full. Can I join you?" And I looked at her hands, and I looked at her face, and I felt something move in my chest that I was not prepared for on a Saturday morning. And I signed back something that made her eyes go wide and her hands go still, and her whole composure shift into something that I can only describe as the expression of someone who has just received an answer they did not know they were hoping for. So let me ask you this before I tell you anything else. When a stranger asks to sit with you, do you really see them? Do you look at the person behind the question and ask yourself what it cost them to ask? Because what I saw in that woman's face when she signed those words to me was something that changed how I understood the simple act of asking to not be alone. And by the end of this story, I think you will understand exactly what I mean. My name is Daniel, and before I take you back to that cafe table, I need to take you back further. Because this story does not begin on a Saturday morning, and it does not begin with a woman signing across a crowded cafe. It begins 6 years ago in a hospital room in Memphis, Tennessee, and it begins with loss of the kind that restructures everything it touches. I am 40 years old. I am a civil engineer who works for a firm in Memphis that specializes in infrastructure projects, which is work that I find genuinely satisfying in the concrete, literal way of someone who finds meaning in building things that last. I have been a single father for 6 years, since my wife Anna passed away from a complication following routine surgery that was supposed to be simple and was not, and that took her from me and from our daughter in the space of 24 hours that I still cannot think about without the full weight of them arriving in my body like something physical. Anna was 33 years old. She was a kindergarten teacher, which was the most accurate possible expression of who she was. Generous and patient, and endlessly interested in small people and their interior lives, the kind of teacher who stays in children's memories long after the school year ends. She left behind a husband who did not know how to do what she had done, which was everything, and a daughter who was 2 years old and who would grow up knowing her mother only through photographs and stories and the careful, incomplete picture that a surviving parent builds over years of deliberate effort. My daughter's name is Lily. She is 8 years old now, and she has Anna's laugh, which I discovered sometime in her 3rd year, and which still catches me off guard on the days when it arrives and I am not ready for it, which is most days. Lily is curious and stubborn, and funny in a dry, observational way that seems too sophisticated for 8, but is entirely genuine, and she is, every single day, the reason I am a better version of myself than I would otherwise be. The reason I know sign language is a story that begins with Lily, who is the beginning of most of the important stories in my life. When Lily was 4, she came home from preschool with a new best friend, a little girl named Zara, whose family had recently moved into the neighborhood, and whose mother, a woman named Priya, had introduced herself at a pickup event with the direct warmth of someone who has decided to be a friend before she has gathered all the evidence. Zara was deaf. She had been profoundly deaf since birth, and she and her family used ASL as their primary home language, supplemented by the hearing aids that Zara wore and the speech therapy she attended. Lily and Zara had found each other in the specific, immediate, uncomplicated way of 4-year-olds who decide someone is their person before they have any logical basis for the decision, and the friendship had the particular quality of things that are simply right, easy, and complete, and not contingent on anything external. I enrolled in ASL classes when I realized that Zara was going to be a significant and sustained presence in Lily's life, and that if I wanted to be present in that friendship, to participate in playdates and conversations, and the ordinary daily texture of 2 little girls who communicated in a language I did not speak, I needed to learn. This is, I want to be clear, a very practical and functional reason to learn a language, and it is the honest one. The less practical and more important reason, the one that I understood only after I had been in the classes for a few months, was that learning ASL taught me something about communication itself that I had not previously understood. Something about the fullness and the expressiveness of a language that lives in the body, that uses the face and the hands and the whole physical self as its instruments, that requires a quality of present and attention that spoken language, for all its capabilities, does not always demand. I became a better communicator for learning ASL in ways that had nothing to do with ASL specifically. And I became a better father for it because Lily saw me learning something hard and unfamiliar, saw me making mistakes and continuing anyway, saw me choosing to stretch towards something rather than stay where I was comfortable, and that modeling mattered more than the language itself. By the time of the cafe morning, I had been learning for 4 years and was genuinely fluent, not the fluency of a native signer, which I will never have, but the real, functional, expressive fluency of someone who has used a language every day for 4 years with people who needed it to be good and have, therefore, pushed it to become good. I used it with Zara at every playdate. I used it with Priya, who had become one of my closer friends in the years since the girls had found each other. I used it with the members of the deaf and hard of hearing family group I had joined in the 2nd year of learning. And I used it with Lily, who had picked it up with the ease of a child learning alongside her best friend, and who was, as children always are, more naturally fluent than her father. The cafe was called Morning Ground, and it was a small, independent place on the east side of Memphis that Lily and I had been coming to on Saturday mornings for about 2 years. It had become one of our rituals, the Saturday morning ritual, which began with Morning Ground and then moved to whatever activity Lily had decided was the appropriate sequel, which varied week to week and was always her decision, and which I had learned to show up for with genuine openness rather than the parental performance of enthusiasm that children can always detect. On this particular Saturday in October, Lily had ordered her hot chocolate and was drawing at the table. She had been going through a period of intense interest in drawing horses, which she rendered with more passion than anatomical accuracy, which I found deeply charming. And I was on my second coffee and reading something on my phone and being, in the specific way of Saturday mornings, as present and as restful simultaneously as a single parent ever gets to be. Lily had gone to the bathroom, leaving her drawing spread across her half of the table, and I was sitting with my coffee in the pleasant, undemanding quiet of a Saturday morning when I became aware of someone nearby. I looked up. She was standing about 3 feet from my table, holding a coffee cup that she had clearly just gotten from the counter, and she was looking at the crowded cafe with the expression of someone doing a quick assessment of available options and finding them limited. She was perhaps 35, with dark hair and the kind of face that I noticed immediately had a quality I have come to recognize in people who communicate primarily through visual language, a particular expressiveness, a quality of presence that uses the whole face as an instrument. She looked at me. She looked at the empty chair on Lily's side of the table. She looked back at me, and then she raised her hands. She signed slowly with the careful deliberateness of someone who is not sure how much I will understand and is choosing clarity over speed. I am sorry to bother you. I am alone. The cafe is very full. Can I join you? I want to describe her face as she signed this, because her face is the whole story. She had prepared herself. I could see that she had prepared herself for the likely response, which she had presumably received enough times in enough cafes to have developed a specific readiness for. The polite but firm sorry, I'm holding this for someone, or the awkward non-response of someone who does not understand and does not know what to do with the not understanding, or the slower, louder, more exaggerated communication that hearing people sometimes offer as accommodation, and that lands as neither helpful nor kind. She had prepared herself for these, and she had asked anyway, which told me something important about who she was. And then I signed back. I signed full, natural conversational ASL, without the careful deliberateness of someone performing a few memorized phrases. Please sit down. I am holding this seat for my daughter, but she will be back in a minute, and there is plenty of room. My name is Daniel. What is yours? What happened to her face is something I have thought about many times since, and that I still do not have fully adequate words for. The prepared expression, the one that had been braced for the likely response, dissolved, not slowly, not with the dignified composure of someone managing a change in circumstances, but immediately and completely, the way a face changes when it is not performing any longer, and the thing underneath is allowed to show. She looked at my hands. She looked at my face. She looked at my hands again, as if she was checking that she had read correctly what she thought she had read. And then she sat down, and she signed with a speed and a naturalness that told me I had been upgraded in her estimation from might understand basic signs to is actually having a conversation. Your name is Daniel. I am Maya. You actually sign. This is not what I expected today. I signed. People are often surprised. My daughter's best friend is deaf. We have been learning for 4 years. Maya looked at me for a moment with those expressive eyes. Then she signed. 4 years. That explains it. You are G. Wood. I signed my daughter is better, but I hold my own. Lily came back from the bathroom and found a stranger at our table, which she assessed with the quick intelligence of a child who is used to assessing new situations. And then she saw Maya's hands, and her face changed in the specific way it changes when she is both surprised and delighted simultaneously. She signed to Maya. Hi, I'm Lily. Are you deaf? Maya signed back. Yes. Are you hearing? Lily signed. Yes, but I've been learning since I was 4. My best friend Zara is deaf. Do you know her? Maya signed. I don't know her, but I know she has a wonderful friend. Lily, who was not immune to genuine compliments even at 8 years old, sat down with a satisfaction that I recognized as the satisfaction of someone who has been correctly assessed and is comfortable with the result. So here is where I want to pause and invite you into the question that I was turning over in my mind as I sat at that table with Maya and Lily on that October Saturday morning, because I think it is a real question, and I think it deserves your attention before I tell you what happened next. Maya had asked to sit down because the cafe was full and she was alone. That was the explicit reason. But I had been watching her face since the moment she approached the table, and I had the specific kind of attentiveness that 4 years of visual calm on occasion had built in me, and what I could see was that the aloneness she had signed about was not just the Saturday morning aloneness of someone whose usual cafe companion had not come. It was larger than that. It had been there longer than that morning, and I was sitting at a table with my daughter and a stranger who had signed I am alone, to me with the specific quality of someone for whom that statement was a significant and sustained truth, and I had to decide what kind